Hey everybody, let's talk Portuguese. Today we're gonna look both ways as we cross the street of all the differences in getting around. The simplest way of getting around is by using your own 2 feet, and in Portugal the people that do that are called peões. But in Brazil the word peão has the connotation of men at work, so instead they say pedestres. In Portugal when you want to cross the street you'd be atravessar a rua, but in Brazil that would often be cruzando a rua. The crosswalk where you go to do that in Portugal is called the passadeira, but in Brazil that would be the faixa de segurança. Asphalt is asfalto in all places, but in Portugal the word alcatrão is also used as a general synonym for it. In Portugal, a estrada can be any smaller country road or small highway, but in Brazil they make a difference between paved rodovias and unpaved estradas. In both places, larger highways are called autoestradas, but in some parts of Brazil you might hear English words such as freeway being used. An express lane in Portugal would be a via rápida, but in Brazil that would be a via expressa. You can travel on all of these kinds of roads in a bus if you'd like, and in Portugal that would be in an autocarro. But say autocarro in Brazil and people will wonder where you got your self-propelling car. Instead there, you'd be saying ônibus. If trains are what you prefer, then you'll be very attentive to the ferrovias. In Portugal, railways could be called caminhos de ferro, but in Brazil that would be estradas de ferro. The railways in Portugal are made up of carris sobre travessas, whereas in Brazil they're made up of trilhos sobre dormentes. Another common way of referring to rail transit in Brazil is transporte sobre trilhos. In Portugal, the train itself is called a comboio, but in Brazil that would simply be trem. Portuguese train compartments are carriages or carruagens, but in Brazil those would be wagons or coaches or vagões ou carros. The types of trains that we tend to use most often are subways, which in Portugal would be metropolitanos ou metros, but in Brazil they would say metrôs. Tramways in Portugal are called elétricos, but in Brazil they go by bondes. If your preference is not for public transit, then you can get your driver's license. In Portugal, that would be the carta de condução. Its equivalent in Brazil would be the carteira de motorista. It's always important to be able to stop your vehicle when you're driving. In Portugal, you'd be using the travão or sistema de travagem to travar, but in Brazil you'd be using the freio or sistema de frenagem to frear. Eventually, you're also going to need to get gas. So in most places, you'll be fine looking for a posto de gasolina. But in Portugal, don't get freaked out if you find yourself in a bomba de gasolina, or gasolineira. And be careful with how you're filling up. In Portugal, diesel is called gasóleo, whereas in Brazil, they tend to use the word diesel. That's all I've got for today's drive around differences between European and Brazilian Portuguese. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. You might think about subscribing to my channel if you're not already. I have a bunch of other videos just like this one that you can find in a playlist on my channel or in the eye above, and I will see you next time.